So we're going to get Cliff going here. He is originally, Cliff, where is Cliff? There he is. Las Vegas? Are you in Las Vegas?
No, Temecula.
That's right, Temecula. Yeah. Temecula. Okay, so Cliff's from Temecula. He's going to give you a good rundown of what he's up to. Like I said, he knows more about him than I do, so thank you, Cliff.
Thank you. Okay, absolutely. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Everybody falling asleep? No? Some of you are.
Only after the pizza.
Only, yes. That was good pizza though.
That was a good pizza, thank you.
All right, so you ready to go? We ready?
Yes, ready. Keep rolling.
Awesome. So my name's Cliff Gager, and I've been in the business for 20 years. I have to look now. See, when you get older, you start remembering less, or you're remembering more, and there's too much to store, right? So, does anybody know who I am?
No.
Anybody ever seen me before?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody been to the post office lately?
No.
No, see, not everybody gets that. The younger people are like, what's he mean? So I've been in the business for a long time. I started in 1992. Anybody been born after 1992? So I bought, fixed, and sold a bunch of houses. Let me fix this over here. There we go. In fact, when I started in the business, I looked like that. It's a little dark, but that's me. I had a mustache. I had a mullet, but I had just gotten a haircut. Remember mullets? So I was in the construction business. I got hurt. I couldn't do the construction anymore. I did sign business. You ever see the big signs on the top of huge buildings? I used to put those up. I'd hang over the side, rappel off the side of the building. 58 floors is the highest I've ever done. And I would drill the holes in the wall in order to mount those big, huge letters on there that said, some bank, insert insurance company here. Right? So it was a lot of fun. So I was in a lot better shape. That's actually a flat stomach. I don't remember what that's like. But it was a long time ago. Actually, you can tell how long ago it was. Because that was a new screensaver that just came out. Windows 3.11. So I've been doing it a long time. I've got, I went from the construction industry into the finance business. I ended up doing mortgages, residential mortgages. But I had a problem. The problem was I was very young at the time, and everybody that I was trying to do business with was in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. So basically they said, okay, kid, right? You hate that? I know. I still get it. But I'm glad now, you know. Oh yeah, call me kid. But they would say, you know, come back when you've got some experience. So I went out and I did as much experience in 6 months that most real estate mortgage brokers do in a lifetime. Because what I did was I came in at the perfect time when everybody was refinancing in the late 90s. Remember that? Jake, do you remember that? Jake, did you turn your hearing aids on? No? Oh,
I'm sorry, what?
Never mind. Nothing. So what I did was I was able to do mortgage refis when nobody else was doing them. And the reason why I was able to do it was because I didn't know I couldn't do that. Did you ever get into something where you did something, but then everybody tells you, oh, you can't do that. How did you do that? Well, that's what I did. And what I did was my first month of closings, it took me about 3 months to get to when I was going to close. I got on the phone. I went into the back storage room and I looked at everybody's file. And a lot of the older people in the room will remember 13, 14, and 15% interest rates. Remember? Okay. I remember my mom came home and she says, oh, man, we got the house. I think this is 1975-ish, and maybe 76. And she paid 18% interest and was ecstatic about that on a first mortgage Fannie Mae loan, or FHA loan. So when I came in the early 90s, those rates were 12, 13%. So I went to that back room for whatever reason, and I noticed all that, and I went to the branch manager and I says, I can't get realtors to give me business. There's got to be something we can do in that back room. And she says, yeah, do refinances. So she showed me how to do it, told me how to do it, and I went through and I called everybody in that back room on the phone. And I says, hi, my name is Cliff Gager with Moulton Allen and Williams, and I pause. Why would I pause? Because nobody from the mortgage company called you back then unless you were late. Okay? So the pause gave them inflection. Do you know what that means? Oh God, did my spouse pay it? Because I know I didn't pay it. And I said, hey, don't worry, your mortgage is okay. But what I've noticed is that you're paying too much on your mortgage. And I'd pause again. Why would I pause there? Because I was waiting for that question. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, well, you're paying $700 a month and you should be paying $400 a month. And then I'd pause again. Why? Because then the next question would come and it's like, well, how do I do that? And I'd say, oh, it's real easy. Just fill out some paperwork. In fact, I'll send it over. I can come over this afternoon, give you the paperwork. I can sit down with you, fill out the paperwork, and we'll get it done. So I did that for 3 months. And my first set of closings, I closed 42 loans in my first set of closings. That's a lot. You should go, I made $1,500 a loan as an average. So what I made in that one day was what I basically made the whole year before that in construction. So guess what I was now? I was a mortgage broker. So I go out, and I did that for about 8 months. I go back out to the real estate world, and I says, okay, now I've got experience. Remember I told you earlier, I said I got as much experience as most realtors or real estate brokers and mortgage brokers have in a lifetime. It's because I hit #1 in the company nationwide. I closed the most loans. I was the youngest guy in the company to close any loans, blah, blah, blah. And what did the realtor say? Great, give us your card, and we'll call you. Guess what? They never call you. Why? Because they got Hank or Frank or Joe down at the bank with the gray hair. No offense. I'm starting to get it too. I'm starting to get it too. And that's who they did business with for the last 35 years. So guess who they're going to do business with? Same guy. So it was really difficult. The lucky thing is I got to realize that fast because I was starting to what? Starve. I wasn't making any money. Oh, and all the money that I made, guess where it went? No, parties. I was young. I could throw a party now. Now, what happened was I was running out of money. I went to the newspaper because the real estate agents wouldn't give me any business. And I figured out real quick, it was, anybody real estate agent? Okay, don't get offended now. But they were keeping me from my clients. My client wasn't the real estate agent. It was their buyer. Right? Are you guys awake? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I had this epiphany. Go to the newspaper, because back then there was no Craigslist, there was no nothing. It was the newspaper, the radio, or the television. I couldn't afford television. I couldn't afford radio. Still can't afford radio. It's ridiculous. They think they got gold spinning wheels in the back room. And the newspaper. So I looked at the ads in there, and I found all the people selling their house for sale by owner. And I went to them. I was really good with computers. I had 2 of them. That was like major high tech back then. Now it's like, So what I did was I made them a flyer for their house that described the house like a real estate agent would make, but in the bottom it had all the mortgage information on what it would take for that person looking at that to buy the house with. Because nobody did that back then. People walked into a house and said, oh great, can we afford it? I don't know, well, let's write a contract. They'd write a contract and then take all this stuff to the bank, and the bank would say yes or no. That's how the system went back then. I was doing it backwards. I says, oh, it's a 15-year fixed, a 30-year fixed, or a 5-1 ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage. Here's what you need for a down payment. Here's what you need for income per month. Here's what you need for credit score. No, you had to have good credit because we didn't have scoring back then. And here's what your payment's going to be. And the people that would call were what? Pre-qualified, because if they couldn't match any of those, or if they were close, I could work them through. I was doing FHA loans in the early 90s, and the fastest one I did was 19 days. It was taking 3 to 6 months to close an FHA loan back then. Okay? And it's all because you figure out what the need is and you just eliminate that as a problem. Just do it, right? So there I am as a real estate investor and a lending person. You can see I was really dressed up that day. I'm sitting there and I'm doing all these loans for people and doing all these loans for these buyers that were doing these for sale by owners. And I ran across two guys in that search for loans that was flipping houses. And they were putting their ads in the papers, and to make a long story short, I did their acquisition money. I started doing hard money loans. I was telling somebody out in the hallway. My boat was called 18 and 10. You guys don't get it. I charged 18% and 10 points. All day long. Okay? But I do 90% LTV, and I give you the money to do the repairs, but your name wasn't on that deal. Right? But I did. I had two guys that I funded all their loans or all their acquisitions. And then what I did was I worked their buyers on the back end. So literally the reason that it worked at 18 and 10 was because I was doing FHA loans in 15, 20 days. So you didn't have that 3 months from contract to sit on a house all that long. So we were turning them and burning them. And one day I'm sitting there at closing, and I noticed net to seller. See, because I was in charge of the closing, right? Because it was my deal. I was the funder. I brought the money from the bank. So who's in control? The money, right? So I have to make sure the paperwork is all right. And there I am looking at net to seller, which I've looked at maybe 100 times at that point in time. And it finally hit me. What was I doing wrong?
Wrong side of the
Say that again?
wrong side of the deal.
First guy I ever said it. I was sitting at the wrong seat. Oh, you said it too. I was sitting at the wrong seat at the table. I needed to sit where the seller was, because he made 25 grand and he didn't do nothing. I found him the money to buy the house, right? He found the house, big deal. He did the repairs, big deal. But I found his buyer and I walked him through. I showed the house. Oh God, this is crazy. I was getting 6 to 8 points from the lender for the loan on the back end. Not even talking about the front end. You know what that was. But when I would sell that $120,000 house and do a $120,000 mortgage, I got 8 points on that. So let's round that to 100,000 and make the math easy. If I get 8 points on a $100,000 mortgage, how much is that? 8 grand. And I charged them 2 points, one origination and one discount. Doesn't mean anything. It's make-believe words. Okay? And those 2 points added up to what? No, 10. We added to the 8. That's a trick. So I made $10,000 on that, right? Just on the loan. And then the seller paid me $3,500 for selling his house. But I saw that net to seller and I was like, oh, I can make that too. All I had to do was do the deal myself. I was already doing it. The only thing I wasn't doing was buying it, but I knew who he was buying them from. Why? Because I did all the hard money loans. I was at that closing. I talked to that guy. So I called him up that afternoon and I says, hey, where's my deal? And he's like, oh, I'm going to do one this afternoon. And he says, why don't you come and look at it with me? I'm going to make it real short. I bought that house for $40,000. I didn't have the $40,000. This is money. What do you need money for? Because I went back to that guy that was sitting there that got that 25 grand, and I says, hey, if you bought this $120,000 house and repairs and costs and this and that and everything else, and you bought it for $65,000, which is what I had it under contract for what? 40. If you bought it at $65,000, this is a good deal. Do you care how much money I make on the deal? He says, no. If you bring me deals like this, he says, I'll buy them all day long. So guess what I started doing?
Wholesaling.
One. Because I made $24,000, title company got $1 grand. We did a simultaneous back-to-back double closing. Simultaneous back-to-back double closing. Do you guys know what that is?
History.
It's history. Yes, it is. I actually heard somebody talking about it in Connecticut the other day, and it was like, what? I made $24,000. Title company made $1,000. He bought the house. Oh, guess who did the mortgage on it when he sold it? Yeah, I made a fortune on that. But I made $24,000, and I walked out with that money, and I felt like I robbed the bank because I didn't do anything. I made a phone call, sat and talked to a guy, went and looked at a house, sat and talked to another guy, went to closing, and made $24,000 in less than, it was about 18 days. So I was now a what? Remember, I was a mortgage broker before. Now what am I? I was a real estate investor. But I didn't want to do the wholesale because I wanted to make the big money like he was going to make, because he was going to make another $20,000 on that deal. So I could have, oh man, I could have made $45,000. So I went out and I bought, fixed, and sold houses, and I did the whole thing. I bought them, I fixed them, and I sold them. And I did 248 houses in 3.5 years. That, see, there you go, got that one. That's a lot. You do not want to do 238 houses in, 248 houses in 3.5 years. You don't. It was a lot of work. I also opened a real estate office, and I'm not a licensed real estate agent. How do you do that?
You have another guy to be a broker.
You buy a broker. I mean, you hire a broker. Did I say that out loud? And those are some of the houses that I did. I couldn't put them all up there because I've done almost 1,500 now. So that's a representation of what I've done. It's not 1,500, because you guys can count, right? So the cool thing was, I opened up my own mortgage company and almost doubled my income on the mortgages because I had to pay half of that to the mortgage brokerage business that I worked for. So when I had my own mortgage brokerage business, I got that other half of the commission. So I doubled my money on just doing that. And then if you didn't buy my house, you bought somebody's house. And hopefully it was listed on the MLS. So one of my agents, I had 35 real estate agents, and I had 15 mortgage brokers working for me in 3.5 years. If you would equate that today, it'd be like making $100 million in a short amount of time. Because I didn't make that much. I can show you the divorce paperwork. And we're ready. This is how much we're going to talk about it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So what happened was, after the divorce, that's not really me. It's just a picture off the internet.
That was from your party.
Yeah. No, what happened after the divorce, and I'll just make it real quick, is I went to Mexico and I drank. I did. I spent $50,000 on Pacifico and Corona. In Juarez.
Wow.
Okay, do you know how much beer that is? They say I had fun. I did go to jail. Well, the guy said, hey, senor, I like your boots. When a police officer in Mexico says he likes your boots, just give them to him. Just take them off, walk barefoot, okay? Because I probably look like that sitting in the jail cell. No, I had a good time, really, honestly. So then I got out of there and I started going back to business. I wanted to do something, but come on, I was defeated, guys. I mean, look at my hair. Right? I mean, this was my midlife crisis. And I'm only 33-ish right there. So what happened was, I didn't want to get back into the business. Long story short, with the divorce, I lost a lot. It took 10 years to final. And the business and the in-laws stealing money from the company. My mom passed away. My kids got taken away. You know, all of that stuff. The wife left, and her 18-year-old boyfriend, I think it had just turned 18 or something. But you know, it's funny. It's funny now. It wasn't then. But what happened was, I was kind of defeated. I did go to Mexico and drink a lot. And thank God my dad was a recovered alcoholic. He helped me get out of there and get my brain out of. I didn't have a drinking problem. I drank, I fell down, I got drunk, there was no problem. So, you can tell I was a party guy, right? So, what happened was, I decided I needed to live near my kids. My kids were in Orlando, Florida, so I picked up the Orlando Sentinel online. They started putting the paper online back then.
Yeah, there's actually an airport, like, right?
That's the first one today.
It's actually the second one.
Oh, wow.
That's why we're not so surprised now.
Oh. I was like,
What is that?
what's the date today?
Trash can?
Yeah, so I saw this ad in the paper and it said, do you know anything about real estate? Do you know anything about the mortgage business? Do you know anything about flipping houses? Do you know anything about law? Do you know anything about how running business? Cliff, call this number. Well, it didn't really say that, but it might as well have. But I didn't want to do anything anymore. I was like, if I made another 10, 15 million dollars, it's only going to get taken away. Anybody ever have that feeling in your life? Yeah, I see people nodding, but they're not raising their hand. Yeah. So what I did was I went to the interview, and I would have taken $30,000 a year. Just give me a job. I'll be close to my kids, and I'll live in a one-bedroom apartment, and I'll be happy because I'll be able to see my kids every 2 weeks. And that's all. That was important to me. And so I sat down for the interview, and they says, well, we can only offer you, I think he said, either 90,000 or 100 and something thousand. And I stood up and I opened up my briefcase. A briefcase is a box that you put papers in that they don't carry anymore. But I opened my briefcase and I leaned over and I grabbed my resume out of the guy's hand, like snatched it. And I put it back in there and I closed it and I says, I'm sorry. I says, I guess there was some miscommunication. I says, I guess maybe we should have done a salary requirement sheet on the resume, but I would have never, ever wasted your time if you were going to insult me with an offer like that. And I walked out. And the honey badger came back because I didn't give a shit. And I walked out of there because I was playing what?
Purple.
Yeah. Guess who was following me all the way down to the hallway, almost out to my car? The guy I snatched the resume. My resume was strong. I mean, I've done a lot to give them a lot of value for what they were going to offer. I got $165,000 a year. I got 4 weeks vacation from day one, and I got full medical for me and my kids.
Score.
Big time. And then I answered the phones. I sat there and I answered the phones, and you guys who paid $19 a month would call in and ask me questions. And there was 6 other people in our division, and I was the only one that had ever flipped a house. So who got all the calls?
You.
Right. So I came up with this idea, I can't be doing this. I need to teach these people. I said, what the hell are you teaching them? Right? Seminar company. You guys know seminar companies? Yeah. Some are good, some are, okay. And so I came up with this idea of doing the mentor program, which is we go out, and for 3 days, I took you to Home Depot, I took you to the tax assessor's office and showed you how to look up on microfiche. You guys know what that is? Yeah, so, right, old school. And I taught people how to do that, and I convinced the company to give me an extra $5,000 per class, plus my salary and everything else, and I wouldn't have to go to work. I could go and teach the class every other week. Because see, I got my kids every other week. So that's what we did. And I did that for a couple of years. The company went out of business, and then it opened back up again. It went out of business, and it opened back. You guess, you know why, right? Because that's what some of our companies do. Right? So then I ended up on my first big stage, all right? And it was speaking for Trump University.
Send it on video. It's all going up on YouTube.
That's okay. I did. I spoke for Trump University. I actually did their back-end fulfillment because I didn't want to get up in front and speak and sell stuff to these people. I wanted to help people do real estate. Anybody in here want to do real estate? Anybody in here doing real estate? Do you want to make your business better? Okay. You can't lie that 20-something years, 26 years of experience, I know something you don't. And you might know something I don't. We learn every day, just like you said. I was watching. So what happens is I started going out and I started doing these classes and doing these classes and doing these classes, and I realized that, can I name drop? Should I name drop? Trump University, Armando Montalongo, Than Merrill Fortune Builders. I saw a Fortune Builder shirt in here earlier. A guy in Utah that you've never heard about that makes $100 million a year in the seminar business, and you don't even know who he is. And I worked for them all, and I did the back-end fulfillment. So they roll through town, they sell a $40,000 program. I show up and teach it. Okay? But the problem is I wouldn't be able to work with these companies very long. Why? Because I was expensive. I got the big bucks. If I told you, you'd be like, because that's what I did when they told me how much they were going to give me. Okay? And I taught 5 to 6 classes a week. Not me, but my staff did. At $2,500 a head. With 30 to 40 people in each room. Yeah, it was like a score. And what happened was, I realized I wasn't able to teach the things that I wanted to teach because they would get rid of me really quick because I'd get the testimonials and then they'd get somebody cheap to do it. Does that make sense? Not going to say all of them would do that, but all of the people that I've ever worked for, that's pretty much what happened. Okay? So I realized that I needed to do what? I got to get up here and do it myself. And it's been tough. Why? Because I've been the wizard behind the curtain for so long. You know, the guy behind the curtain, not the wizard. I was the guy behind the curtain. And it was really difficult when I first came out because everybody's like, well, who are you? You don't have a TV show. I don't want a TV show. Really, have you ever watched those? Anybody in here at Flip Houses watch the shows and just gut roll laugh? Because it's not, it's supposed to be reality TV.
I believe that.
It's TV.
It's TV. So I got to help a lot of people. I started doing this for myself because it's all about what?
Yeah.
It's all about you. So now it's your turn. I want to bring what I do directly to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to teach you something that I was never able to teach when I was teaching this for the big gurus. Why? Because this works. And if it works really good, and you get called by the gurus, and they say, hey, we've got this new program that you need, and you say, oh, no. Cliff showed us how to do our stuff, and we don't really need to do anything else, so we don't want to buy any more expensive programs. That's why Cliff got fired. Or let go. Or they didn't even start returning my phone calls. You know how they do it in Hollywood? They just don't talk to you anymore. And I'm like, hey, we have a business here. But anyways, how many people understand that you make money when you buy the house, not when you sell it? Okay? And if you don't make a good deal in the beginning, you'll never make it a good deal. Okay? Many times people call me and they say, hey Cliff, I bought this house and we're in trouble now. And so I start looking at it, and the first thing that they did was they didn't call me until when?
After they bought it.
After they bought it, and they were like 5 minutes till closing and they couldn't get the money. That's called the hard money lending business. And they say, oh, and so I look it up, and it's a $250,000 house. They paid $230,000, and it only needs $40,000 in repairs. Do I need to go further on that explanation? Right? So you make your money when you buy it. So it's anybody having a hard time finding properties? Okay, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's never been easy. When I bought all the houses, it was hard. You couldn't find deals like this. So how did I do it? Well, I'm going to show you. You want to learn?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you got to get your offer to the top of the pile. I do 99.9% of my business through real estate agents. Why?
They do the hard work.
They do everything. I call them up and I say, hey, do my work, right? And where's my realtors? You guys know,
Yeah.
right? And if you have money, they work even harder. And if you close a couple deals, then they go away. Why? Because they just don't believe that you could do that. I've had that happen too. And you're like, what? So if you get your offer to the top of the pile using a real estate agent, and you're competing against 55 people that just took a real estate seminar, and those 55 offers are all the same because they're following the rules of the guru, right? You know what I'm saying? With me?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you make yours different? You have to be different, right? All right, so watch this. You got to get your offer to the top of the pile. I figured this out, okay? I didn't know I figured it out. Remember I told you I didn't know what I was doing? I just ended up doing everything, and it worked, and I made almost $15 million. Did I tell you I dropped out of school in 9th grade? Yeah, I did. Well, because I was smarter than the teachers. Well, they didn't think I was, but it turned out that I actually was. You got to get the seller talking to you or your agent. Okay? If you put in an offer in and they reject it by not calling you back, you've lost. So you've got to get them to call you, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that. You'll be able to close more deals even with low money offers. I just had a student in Houston, Texas, bought a house that's about $240 for $156,000. No, $146,000. He's selling it for $156,000. He's going to make 10 grand on it.